Hi, thank you for joining me for another process video. And once again today I'm documenting that trip to New York back in December last year, where we went to the Hook and Ladder 8, which is the set of the Ghostbusters fire station. So today I want to add a bit of journaling onto this page. It's going to be a companion page to the one that I did previously, because I didn't add any journaling onto that. So I just wanted to put a little note of the story. So I'm going into my James alphabet. This is a new alphabet stamp from Hey Little Magpie, and I'm using the solid set first of all to spell out Ghostbusters. I'm using my red candied apple ink from Tim Holtz Distress Oxide, and you can see I've just overlapped each of those letters to create a long, it's going to be a title. I'm going to fussy cut that out. So now I'm coming back in with the outline, James Outline alphabet stamp, and this is created to coordinate with this stamp, and I'm just going to go in with black soot and add the outline around each of these letters. So just grabbing one at a time and adding that outline. So where the letters overlap, this looks really fun. And you can see I've offset the letters against one another because I didn't want them all as a straight line, and I'm not terribly good at keeping things absolutely straight anyway, so this is a great way to do it without worrying too much about that. So I won't make you watch every step. This is just me adding the last outline to that exclamation point, and then I'm going to come in with my cutter bee scissors and just trim all the way around this title to create a fussy cut title. So there we have it, there's the title. So now I'm coming in with an LE Studio alphabet stamp. I wanted to get two different fonts on this page, and it's the Max alphabet stamp. And first of all, I tried stamping with my archival ink, but I think, as you can see there, it's running out. So I decided to come in with black soot and use that instead. So I'm going to spell out Who You're Gonna Call, because that's the song, isn't it, that goes with the film. So just putting those letters back on the sheet, and I'll just rub over these with some water on a kitchen towel when I finish, just to clean them off. I find that the easiest way, just to keep everything in position really. So who you, and then on the next line I'm going to spell out gonna call. So on the next one I have to do the GON and then NA separately, because obviously I'm using the same letters, and the same with that one. So there we go, that's the title done, and now I want to work on matting and layering behind the photo. So the photo is a 4x6 photo, and these papers are from American Crafts Whatevs. We've done a Nest Box Warrington weekend recently where I was teaching classes, and this was the kit that I used. So we used the majority of the kit, but I still had a few bits left, and these colours go really nicely with the reds, yellows and greens, so I'm going to use those for this layout. So just layering things up. This is the only bit of red I have left, so I'm being very careful and I'm just going to tuck a little bit at the top and a little bit at the bottom. And then I did bring in this blue at the first instance, but decided that it didn't really go. I wanted to stick to red, yellow and green. So I've got a couple of strips of this sort of lemon and lime paper I'm thinking of using. I'm just going to trim the photo down ever so slightly. There's a tiny bit of dead space there, and I wanted to make sure that I could use the pieces of papers that I had left, and they really are quite short, so I just wanted to make sure there was enough space to get those layered and showing behind the photo. So I'm just going to mat it with a very small border of white around the edge, and then I'll carry on with my layering. So I did struggle a little bit. There's not a huge amount of this kit left. I did have that long 12-inch piece of the bumpy border paper, which I really like, but in the end I end up cutting it down because it's just too much on this page. I think with hindsight I probably should have built up my layers on the photo before stamping the title. But I was so excited that I knew what I wanted to do with the title that I went with that first, and possibly that's why I struggled a bit more, because then I was trying to fit everything around it rather than just adding the title in to fit where the photo went. So you can see I'm just building up these layers and distressing each of the edges as I go. And it's when I add this piece here that I realise there's a funny gap on the right hand side of it. So I bring in this cloud paper to try and work out what to do with that. And it does work. I just tuck a tiny piece in and that makes it a bit better. And I will come in with more later in the day once the layout's all put together. So because I've added something at the bottom, I want to add a bit at the top as well. So just chopping another little piece off and then tucking that behind there. And this is where I decide how much of this bumpy border piece that I'm going to use and how I'm going to use it. So I decide to chop it down so there's a little bit at the top and a little bit at the bottom, above and below the red paper, and I stick that together. But as soon as it's together, I realise that it's still not quite right, and I take that down underneath that red paper and it looks much better. I think I wanted the red to be the thing that dominated the layout really, even though it's a tiny piece. I wanted that to show above the grey. So distressing all the edges here, but as I say, we'll chop it off in a minute. It's just too big. Just moving that piece a little bit, realising it wasn't quite straight. Just getting everything distressed. I think I get carried away sometimes not realising that I haven't distressed all the edges, so just making sure that everything's right. So this is where I'm struggling because that title is very long and it's overlapping onto the red paper, and I didn't really want it to overlap onto the photo mat. I wanted the photo to be separate from the rest of it. So you can see me moving it up and down. I really don't want the photo to be any higher than that position that you just saw there. So I'm going to chop these two bits off first of all, and straight away to my eye it looks so much better. And then I find another little piece in the scraps that I've got left from this collection. It's a journaling piece, which I will bring in shortly. But first of all, my tab, which if you watch me often, you'll know that I like to add at the top of my photo to add my date. And this is the red piece that I was talking about. So I just chop that off. It's from a 12 by 12 paper, and use that as another layering piece at the top. And that sort of mimics the building. You can see it's got quite a big ledge at the top of the building, so I like the look of that. And it also hangs over that title, so it fills in that big expanse of white to the right of the photo block. So once again, just distressing these edges. And it takes me a couple of goes to position it because I don't really want the white blocks to show. I want it to look like it's a solid piece of paper. So you can see where I've put it there, you can see the white block where the journaling would normally sit. So I just reposition it a couple of times. And there we go. So that's already looking much better to my eye. So bringing in another little tab. This is from one of the dies that we sell at Hey Little Magpie. I just cut it out of some stripy paper. I've got quite a few just on my desk in my little set of drawers. So I'm going to commit to sticking this photo block down. It's going to go just there. And then I find the printables that I had put in the kit. So I'm going to cut out this little red label and just tuck that in underneath the star paper, just to fill in that gap ever so slightly. So there we go. So it's going to step inwards because, like I say, I did like the look of that to mimic the building. So I'll just get that stuck down. And I definitely want to embellish on that bottom right hand corner. So first of all, a couple of ribbon loops, which is one of my favourite things at the moment. Seem to be doing it an awful lot. So this lovely black and white stripy ribbon, and then this gingham grey, silver and white. Just tuck those in next to each other. And I've not committed to sticking that title down just yet. I'm still annoyed that Who You're Going to Call is so far apart from the title, but I did come up with a solution which I'm really pleased with. So, and one of JD 3D Print's wood engraved cameras there, and one of his little stars that I just had hanging out in my drawers on my desk. And then I'm going into my sticker sheets to see what else I can add. So this folder, I know a lot of you have asked, there is now a tutorial on my YouTube channel. If you want to see how that's made, just have a look for the tutorial. It was put up last week, I think. So these are the Ellie Studio puffy stickers, and this one says good stuff right here, and that other little sticker I just moved over to tuck underneath that. I thought it looked better there. And then this red one just says enjoying this, and I thought that had to go on the page. So I just tucked that above the camera here. So now the little red hearts, so a vellum one on top of that tag there, just to finish that off nicely. And then a puffy one to the right of the camera. And you can see I've also got that wood arrow that I'm thinking of using, but it doesn't stay where it is at the moment. So just adding the date now on a scrap of white card, and I'll pop that onto that tab at the top. It just fits nicely there, so just add a bit of glue and get that stuck down. And then I decide that I'm going to add a little bit more paper at the bottom here. I just wasn't happy with that gap between the camera and the red paper. So I'm just using a tiny bit of that green to fill that gap in, and I'm much happier with that once that's down. So just tuck that underneath. And it just fills in that gap really nicely. So now I want to work on the title. So first of all, I decided that I want to add a bit of halo behind. So I've pulled in my scattered straw Distress Oxide, and I'm just using a blending brush to blend that behind the title, just to give it something to sit on, to give it a little bit more prominence. And then when I've done that behind the title, I decided that I should also do it behind the photo mat. So a bit annoying that I've stuck that down. It would have been much easier if it wasn't stuck down, but it's not a huge issue. I just blend carefully, pulling up the edges. You've seen that I don't really add glue right to the edges of my page anyway, so I can just pull things up and rub the ink across, and it works just fine. So now I'm going to add some foam pads to that Ghostbusters title. So just grab out my Sticks to foam pads once I finish doing all this inking, and I'll add those all to the back. And I do use a mixture. I use the 6x12 millimeter foam pads that are on a roll from Sticks to, and also their little 5mm squares, just to fill in the extra bits. So this is where that arrow was, and I decided that I want to add my journaling there. I'm just going to add a little bit of information about Ladder Company 8, because it's quite an interesting company. They are still a used fire station, and they were one of the first responders to the 9/11 World Trade Center disaster. So I just wanted to get that information there on the page as well. So now just using my T-square ruler to get this title more or less straight. Obviously the letters go up and down, but I still want to make sure that it looks straight on the page. So just adding that there, and then I'm going to add that arrow pointing downwards to the title. And I think that looks much better on the page like that. So the last thing I want to bring in is some green splatters. So I'm going to use Mowed Lawn again. This colour works so beautifully with the colours in Ellie Studio, and also these papers from Whatevs, and I'm just adding splatters all the way around the bits on the page, and that's it done. Thank you so much for joining me. I do hope you've enjoyed this and I've provided you with some inspiration. I shall see you again soon. Bye.